Well, all right. I'm almost finished my Vegemite on toast.
Is that really what you're having?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Very
Why not?
cliche.
It's delicious. Good morning.
Good morning, James.
Apple makes small purchases from time to time that they don't always release press releases about. And they made one of them during the week. Did you see the news?
No, this must have been so small it went right over my radar.
Okay. Well, there's a small company called Intel, and they have an arm of the company comprising of around 2,200 people. And they make smartphone modems and... they made smartphone modems, I guess, would you say, in the past tense? And Apple decided it would be worthwhile to purchase aforementioned arm of company. So they'll be joining Apple. I don't think anyone saw this coming, really. I thought Intel was done and dusted with 5G and smartphone modems. But here we are. And just a drop of Apple's bank account, $1 billion. And the deal is expected to close in the fourth quarter of 2019.
Yeah, and this is not only underlying patents and technology, but also over 100,000 employees are going to be joining Apple. So this is
Sorry? 100,000 employees?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
Sorry.
I'm lost.
No, I misread the article. Apple's more than 100,000 employees. Sorry. That's the total accumulative number of employees Apple has.
Including Intel's 2,200.
Right.
You let me know if you want that taken out of the show or not, all right?
No, that's okay. You could leave that in. I'm human, and our viewers deserve to know it.
Okay. A small city.
I mix my numbers up.
That's all right.
Okay. But also interestingly about this is Intel is maintaining the right to make modems for non-smartphone products.
Right, so all the fridges and TVs and things that want modems in the future.
Refrigerator with a modem.
Never say never. Actually, I'm sure it already exists. I'm sure there are fridges that you swipe things, you take them out of them, and they send your order off to Amazon. No Wi-Fi required.
That's fair. I didn't think about that. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is a win-win because Intel's only major mobile phone customer was Apple, and they recently announced that they would be shifting back to wow, I am losing names right now.
The little-known Quality Communications.
Qualcomm.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah. So they recently announced they're going to be going back to Qualcomm, so it does make me curious about the order of events. I feel like we had this conversation a few months ago when this was announced that Apple was settling with Qualcomm and going to be using their chips. I think that this deal was definitely in the works already when all this was announced.
Okay, that's an interesting take. I wasn't really sure what to think. Were they already talking about this when that deal happened, when they settled with Qualcomm and then Intel announced they're out?
Right. Dropping. Yeah, I think that had to play out that way because if Apple was to announce if they were to settle with Qualcomm and announce they're going to be using their chips in the future, that would have a potentially negative impact on Intel, except Intel announced they weren't going to be in the market anymore, so it almost sounded like we kicked Apple out kind of thing, so it didn't hurt them as much potentially in the market. But this is all just PR until they could get this deal finalized.
So thinking that way, then you're not thinking it's a problem that Apple has just bought a big branch of a company that wasn't able to make a decent modem, because you're thinking that they have probably been making progress then for the last little while anyway. Maybe not as fast as Apple would have wanted.
Mm-hmm.
but they
definitely
still
not as
have
fast.
been making progress, and maybe have a plan for like a half decent 5G modem next year or the year after.
Yeah.
Because the way I saw it was that Apple, I mean, back then when they settled with Qualcomm, that Intel was just out in the weeds and had no hope of releasing anything in the near future.
Which there's definitely some truth to that, and I think that's why Apple rushed to settle with Qualcomm. So they had an intermediary stepping stone between where they are now and their eventual own 5G modem. But whether or not Intel was able to make this technology work, Apple has a really, really great track record right now for their internal hardware teams. And I have total faith that they'll be able to figure something out. Hopefully that's not too optimistic, but they have a pretty good history.
Yeah, well, the name mentioned on the press release is Johnny Srouji, and as we might know, he is... Actually, I have no idea what his title is, but he was leader of the team behind Apple's first system on a chip, the A4 SoC. And
oh, really?
yeah, so we certainly know the what that started. It started off Apple kicking everyone's ass in chips for the next 10 years.
Yeah, A4 was 2010. Man, I can't believe it's already been 10 years.
So with his name on the press release, I see it as a initiative led by him. I would say that the new arm of Apple, I'm not sure what we're going to call it, the Apple Intel, is going to be led by him as well. And he does know Intel quite well, seeing as he worked for them for like a decade in the late 90s as well.
The only thing that concerns me about this is I've heard at least rumors that the reason Intel has struggled so much with getting competing modems onto the market is because of the patents that Qualcomm holds. And I wonder how much of that is just like an engineering deficiency. Was it really just that Intel's teams can't get this done, but Apple's can? Or is this more of a legal issue that Apple's going to have to work around now?
Yeah, I doubt that's something we're ever going to find out. Like, not for 50-odd years. Information like that.
Now, did Apple's settlement with Qualcomm involve any usage of their patents anyway? Or was it strictly just, you can use our chips again?
And doesn't the agreement with Qualcomm mean that if you want to use the chips, you also have to license the patents?
Potentially. I'm not sure about how that's worded, but
I think that might have been the start of the whole dispute. Just the way that Qualcomm sells chips, and having to also put in money for the patents, and then the way that you pay for them is a percentage of the sell price of the device, of the final device, affects what you're paying.
Contention.
Yeah, that's the point of contention. That's what you're paying in the end. So the more Apple sells their iPhones for, the more money Qualcomm's getting, even though the part is exactly the same as might be in your 5G enabled fridge. Although fridges are quite expensive, I should have picked something a lot cheaper.
Huh. I wonder if with the way that's worded, that opens up the ability for Apple to use those patents in their own modems then.
But then aren't they in the same fix then?
Yeah, well, they're still going to have to pay Qualcomm. And I almost feel like Apple got to a point where they're okay with that because of how quickly they settled this with Qualcomm. And they didn't decide to actually see this lawsuit out and challenge Qualcomm on the terms of these contracts. So either they've found some solution where that's not going to be an issue, or they've decided they're okay with it.
Yeah, I have no idea. to put it bluntly.
It makes sense. There's a lot of technology and years of research that Intel had put into this modem business that they had seemingly were just going to abandon, and it wasn't going to go anywhere. So,
right, and a lot of staff that would have to replace or lay off.
Right, 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if nothing else, at least this years of technology and research isn't just going to be for waste, and it's going to go to a company that can potentially do something with it.
Right. And 100,000 patents from Intel, wasn't it?
Yeah. 100,000 everything.
Yeah. I think it actually was 100,000 patents.
Was it?
No, sorry. Wow, I'm way off. 17,000 wireless technology patents.
Yeah, I saw the 100,000 number in a statement about Apple's total employee count. I was reading that release. So,
all right. Would you have guessed that the iPhone XR counts for nearly half of recent US iPhone sales, ahead of the iPhone 11 launch?
This actually isn't that much of a surprise to me.
No, it's not at all, is it?
No, I mean, the only reason it's like I even have to think about it is because I tend to, I don't know, fetishize flagship and premium devices, and I have to have the newest thing. But I know that's not the common way people think, and most people are happy just with whatever's cheapest.
How do you fetishize them? Do you rub them on your feet? Have little candle shrines?
Yeah. I mean, I make a big deal out of product launches. I remember when I started at the company I'm with now, I don't remember what keynote it was. It might have been iPhone 10 announcement or 7. But I told my manager the day of the keynote that I had to take the day off because it was a religious holiday for me. I went on to explain what it actually was, but
okay,
I made sure to highlight that it was that important. So I get excited about new things and playing with whatever the latest and greatest features are. But even just in my day-to-day life, majority of people I see are using a 10R. And when people ask me what iPhone they should get, I almost always try to sell them the 10R because you're getting all the features of the 10S, except a few niche things that most people wouldn't mind missing. And on top of that, you get a better battery life. So I think that it's a really good phone and makes sense for most people.
Anecdotally, I don't think I could say either way because the phones all look pretty much the same, you know. An iPhone 10 looks the same as a 10S, looks the same as a 10R, looks the same as a Xiaomi clone. So
sure.
Down to the software half the time as well, especially when you're talking Xiaomi. So unless it's like someone that's actually really close to me, like the pool of devices I have to source my anecdotal knowledge from is quite small. You know, it's only a handful of people, and none of them have a new iPhone. I think the newest one is probably an iPhone 10. But saying that, I mean, the iPhone 10R, I just picture the executive sitting around a table saying, why don't we make it cheaper and put double the battery life in? See how that goes. And, of course, it went swimmingly. And it seems to be that everyone's buying them. Who would have thought that people that people didn't like? No, I mean, what's the bad thing that's happened to smartphones over the last few years? They've gotten heaps more expensive. And,
yeah, that's the worst thing.
Yeah, and what's something that hasn't improved since like the dinosaurs? Battery life, practically. It feels like it's that long. Of course, it has improved a little bit with battery tech, but not really in recent memory. So when you improve those two huge points, it's just an easy win. And I wonder what the 10RS is going to be this year, but I think that's another topic today.
And you get the benefit of also having multiple colors, which is, only ever done to this extent one other time in the history of the iPhone. So people are excited to get a blue iPhone again.
Yeah, I think it's a niche of people that like colored iPhones.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's gonna buy the new iPhone because it comes in blue. But if you're gonna go out and buy an iPhone right now, I don't think people are buying the black 10R.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Everyone just puts cases on their phones anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Except you.
I'm really feeling it this time of year. After about a year of pulling my phone in and out of my pocket and setting it on desks and kids grabbing it, the scratches are starting to get really noticeable, and there's some deeper ones on the screen now that are annoying that I can feel if I'm rubbing my finger on it.
Ooh, yeah,
So
those are the worst.
I'm getting just about ready for the new iPhone.
I do have a fairly significant scratch on my iPad screen as well, so I'm looking forward to a new iPad.
You think they're just going to give you a new one if you can reproduce this problem?
I think either way, I'm probably going to have a new device, even if it's the same one with a new screen, so at least that'll take care of the scratch problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a win-win. So, do you see yourself potentially getting an iPhone in the future, or are you gonna stick with the iPad? Are you happy with that?
Right now, I'm happy with my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just the problem of two-factor authentication, and of course, getting phone calls and SMSs. Actually, that's something I wanted to talk about. Like, I was trying to work out how to contact someone. I was playing sport with someone, and like, oh, we need to organize blah blah blah, and so I said, okay, do you have an iPhone? And he said, no, he's got an Android phone. Okay. Or do you have Facebook Messenger then? He said, no, I don't have Facebook. Well, he said, do you have WhatsApp? I said, no, I don't have WhatsApp either because you need a phone for that. Right. And then, so like, oh, what are we going to do? And then he suggested, oh, how about Telegram or Signal? Because he's a bit progressive like that, and he's got these apps. So I said, oh, yeah, that'll be good. I'll set them up when I get home. So I downloaded both of them to see which one is better. Firstly, I think Signal doesn't even have an iPad app, but I tried it anyway, and both of them require sending an SMS to your phone to set up an account, so they're both out the window as well.
So there are
in the end,
there are workarounds to this,
like having a hosted phone number, that type of thing.
Yeah, like I know it used to be like Google Voice. You could have all your text and phone calls redirected through them, and you could receive them on an app instead. Right,
I have looked into that. Firstly, there's no Google Voice in Australia. And the cheapest hosted SMS plan I could find was like $10 a month. So I'm avoiding that at all costs. I mean, my thoughts right now is I just change any like two-factor codes to my wife's phone. Because even if she's out, they come to her laptop still, which is always at home. So that'll work around most.
She gets a code to forward it to you.
Yeah. But anyway, the end of the story with me trying to organise this thing is that we just said we'll just email each other in the end, and good old tried and trusty email turned out to be the communication method of choice when one person has an iPad and the other person has an Android phone.
Yeah. Huh. Man, I don't know what the solution to that problem is. It's just that you guys are all like completely different platforms.
Yeah, maybe it is a hosted SMS type thing with an app, but... Yeah, I haven't seen one that's compelling yet. So Apple is to release 3 iPhone 11 models this fall. Who would have guessed it? Wow, blew my mind. Actually, releasing 3 is it's not a given. Because, they're certainly going to release 2, the regular new one and the plus-size new one.
And the R could be like the 5C, where it was a one-time thing.
Right, yep. Where it slowly gets older and older and never gets updated. But considering it makes up half of all iPhone sales, you'd be definitely shocked if they didn't give that an update too.
I guess this is less news for me because I've seen the leaks of models of this for like the last 6 months. So,
man, if they add that massive camera array to the back, I'm going to be as disgusted as when they added the current double camera array, which I also do not find aesthetically pleasing.
You didn't like it as it is now, or on the 7, or just at all?
As it is now, the double bump, when they went from like one circle to the pill on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's ugly. And the new square looks even worse.
The square just looks huge to me. It's odd that they chose this sensor arrangement. It must have some kind of practical purpose to be laid out this way, but it sure does look weird to have not only the square large cutout, but also like the sensors aren't evenly spaced on there, and there's like a flash just stuck up in a corner, and it definitely isn't attractive to me either.
I don't know what the alternative is though, really. I mean, they're not going to have cameras just sitting there separately, like 3 little lenses side by side.
Right.
I mean, that's bound to trigger a lot of people's trypophobia.
Well, what do you like more? Do you like... I've seen the mock-ups both ways. The ones in this article have a black glass over the sensors, but I've seen some that the glass match the back of the phone.
For aesthetics, I haven't seen it, but I would guess that the color matching one would look better. But as far as like camera performance goes, I think there's no choice really but to surround a lens by like a really non-reflective type material, or something that doesn't bounce light into the lens, because that can do things like reduce contrast and add
true.
flares.
Apple famously had that problem with the white iPhone 4.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I think maybe even just eventually returning to flush cameras could help with this a lot, because these bumps are just getting so unruly. I wonder if it being so big would make the wobble better or worse.
I'm going to say worse, because there's going to be like a shorter footprint to wobble against. You know, the longer the footprint, the longer the distance between the two height differences, the less you notice.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. So my next question about this would be, do you think they're actually going to call it the iPhone 11?
Ooh. So what have we had so far? We've had the 10, we had the 10S.
Mm-hmm. Are they going to keep Roman numerals? Or are they going to go back to just digits?
Roman numerals just get unwieldy so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm definitely not putting any money on Roman numerals.
Think they go back to iPhone? Just iPhone?
Just iPhone. Yeah, that's a tough call. Do you want to have a real wager on this? Wait, what do you think first, and then we can decide?
Oh man, I don't have strong thoughts on this, but realistically, I think we're just gonna see iPhone 11.
That's a safe bet.
I'd
All
like
right.
to see iPhone Pro, maybe. I don't know how I see a Pro. I don't know what they do to a Pro to make it worth that, but I don't know. I think numbers are starting to get out of hand.
So if they go iPhone 11 and then iPhone 11 Max, then do they have iPhone 11R and then the next year the 11RS? I mean, yeah.
11SR or I don't know.
See, that little R thing can be a thorn in the side of the names going
Well,
forward.
I mean, maybe we won't even see the R in another year's time, because they'll either have been able to lower the price of the next phone to negate the need for a cheaper option, or I don't know.
Yeah, the 2020 iPhones featuring 0 Qualcomm components and the price crazily drops by 30%. Boom.
Man, I think I put my money on iPhone 11 though.
All right, and just to be different, I'm going to say it's just going to be called iPhone, with
Just iPhone.
with no modifier.
I've been pushing for that since the 10. I think I said that the 10 should just be called an iPhone, but
I think you're going to win this bet though. The phone's still going to feature a Lightning port.
that lines up with what you've said in the past. You don't think that you've said at least in the past that you don't think they're ever going to switch to USB-C. They'd sooner just take the port out.
That's right, but now that I've got a USB-C iPad, I don't think I'd want to buy a phone that didn't have a USB-C port as well.
Really?
Maybe if I was on like a wireless charging lifestyle, I would think differently, but currently I'm all USB-C. Actually, I do have the AirPods though.
That's true. Yeah, those still use Lightning.
And they've only just been updated as well.
I've still heard rumors that we're going to see an update in the fall as well. But yeah, the only time I ever plug my phone in is for CarPlay. Otherwise, everything's wireless for me.
Okay.
And in that use case, it doesn't make a difference what port it has.
All right.
But if I take the port out, I don't know what I'd do because my car doesn't have wireless CarPlay. You better make a dongle.
There are a lot of new CarPlay systems that are still only tethered CarPlay.
Yeah. I don't know what that is or what reason that is, but I like charging my phone anyway when I'm in the car, so it doesn't really make a difference to me.
I saw a headline during the week. I didn't look into it too deeply, but it was saying that you could just buy a CarPlay USB dongle and plug it into certain Android head units, and you'd have the CarPlay experience just via USB.
Yes. It was funny that this headline kind of popped up when it did, because I had just been doing some research on the topic prior to that. Specifically, I was looking for a way to make the CarPlay in my car wireless. I was hoping there was just a dongle I could plug into the USB port and then it would interface. But that doesn't exist. But if you have a head unit that's running Android, not necessarily supporting Android Auto, just Android on your car's head unit, you can flash a specific APK to the head unit and then buy this dongle that allows you to use wireless CarPlay. And it seems to work pretty good. And I've also seen that you get this APK working on just some Android tablets as well. So you can have any tablet as a wireless CarPlay device.
Okay. Interesting.
That opens up a lot of possibilities for potentially cheap ways to add CarPlay to a vehicle if you wanted to. You could buy a $100 Android tablet and mount it on your dash.
Classic open source, hey?
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be cool if Apple just natively supported this with like the iPads or something. Like you could put an iPad mini on your dash and it would act as a CarPlay receiver.
Yeah, or what I've been doing is just like sitting the iPad kind of in front of the gear stick on my car. It's got like the perfect size spot for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Besides the fact that all the touch targets are way too small to operate when you're actually driving, it works pretty well. And I'm sure I would get a hefty fine if policemen saw me use it.
Well, it's like, just like their iPhone has Do Not Disturb while driving, what if the iPad had like a driving mode as well that pulled up a simplified CarPlay interface on the iPad, so you could still do your stuff, but it'd be on an easier for driving interface.
Yeah, that would work really well.
Yeah. And as far as I'm aware, because I've seen jailbreaks do this in the past, I think all of that is possible because iOS manages CarPlay entirely.
Right.
Like the CarPlay interface is already on your device, and with a jailbreak tweak, you can force it to come up. That
could be cool.
Yeah.
I'll just need to find a way to actually secure the iPad in the car so it's not going to decapitate anyone if I'm in an accident. Back to the new iPhone, though. It's going to have another huge surprise. Is the Apple A13 chip.
Whoa.
Not having last year's chip then? Wow. It's going to have a new type of taptic engine known by the codename Leap Haptics. So this is the death of 3D touch.
Yeah, I'm hoping this bump or this significant update to the taptic engine is specifically to make the 3D touch replacement feel better. I don't know. Hopefully this isn't just them like stripping out even the feel of 3D touch.
I think the codename gives away how it's going to operate. Leap haptics. It's going to feel like the screen is leaping out to your finger, kind of how 3D touch, I guess, if you stretched, you could describe it as a leap when you 3D touch the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
You with me?
I'm following along, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's gonna be. I've got no idea how they're gonna do it, but some sort of stronger version maybe of the 10R haptic engine, maybe with some different axes of vibration that just give an almost 3D touch experience.
Yeah, I'd love to see them come up with a way to put this in the iPad. And as I was saying it, I feel like they already kind of have, because they got this working on their giant track pads on their MacBook Pros. I feel like putting it in an iPad shouldn't be that much. I mean, I'm sure I'm oversimplifying it, but it couldn't be that much harder to get it working on a bigger screen.
Yeah, I imagine they would just have to have like a whole array of these little engines to make it
There'd have to be a few.
really feel like whatever you pressed on the screen, you were pressing right onto the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on the big iPad. I mean, at any point, your finger could be so far away from a single engine that you'd probably feel nothing.
Right. So, I don't know. I think that's a big thing missing from iPad OS, because it still has a focus on, with iPad OS 13, with the long touch kind of mimicking 3D touch, but there's like, don't hold it for too long or else it does something different. And without that feedback from the Taptic engine to say you held it long enough, it's kind of hard to time that.
Yeah. And especially on the current betas, it's kind of a mess as well.
Right.
But I'm sure that'll improve.
Yeah, it has gotten even better recently. I don't know if this was before or after you had to downgrade, but now if you're like holding an app on the home screen, the 3D touch menu comes up automatically. It's not based on when you release the app icon anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you have the rearrange apps option on there instead of holding long. Well, you can also hold longer to rearrange, but
another feature is Smart Frame. So the front-facing camera will be improved. It's going to be a wider angle camera. But Smart Frame captures the area around the frame area in pictures and videos, so that a user can adjust the framing or perform automatic perspective and crop corrections in post. So the way I imagine this is that, I mean, we know that the camera is basically capturing every single frame that it sees anyway, because when you hit the shutter, the live photo, it's got the 1 or 2 seconds before you hit the shutter, so we know it's capturing all this information. Well, imagine that you're pointing the front-facing camera at you, and of course, before you press the shutter, you're probably trying to get yourself in the frame. You might be getting friends in the frame. You might be kind of waving the camera around a bit, and it sounds like the phone's going to kind of, almost like how a panorama works at the moment, is like when you move the phone, it's capturing all these frames and stitching them together. Sounds like the phone's going to do that, but just for a regular photo, and in all axes, not just left, right, or up and down, as in a panorama. And then once you've taken the photo, you've got the option to move the frame around and do other clever things, which you can do when you've got this like fake giant sensor taking the photo.
It's interesting to me that a leak like this would come out at this time, because usually the smaller things like software camera updates are basically the only things that come as surprises in the keynotes. So for them to get this information out of, I mean, this is definitely coming out of more than just, it has a nicer front-facing camera.
Well, you know who's reporting on it, right? At 9 to 5 Mac.
Of course.
You could guess.
But this does sound right along the lines of something Apple would do. They're editing photos in post for things like the bokeh effect and lighting, is surprisingly good in some cases. So this feels like potentially a natural next step. I'm interested to see how they implement it.
Just on editing controls in iOS 13, I just can't leave this topic alone, but they are so much better in iOS 13. Even things like the auto enhance, which this is just a leap above the auto enhance from iOS 12, which I don't think had probably changed since like iOS 4, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that there seems to be a strong focus on, well, there always is a strong focus on the camera and the smarts that are behind the camera. But yeah, this will be something cool to see. And also the front-facing camera is getting a hardware upgrade as well.
Right.
I mean, it's probably going from, what is it now, 8 to 12 megapixels. And it's also going to add slow-mo recording, which gets whipped
kind
out.
Of overdue.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, for a lot of people, I think the front-facing camera is the most used camera, and yet it's lagged behind the back cameras by years.
Right. And
sometimes.
I think, yeah, I was gonna say, for years, competitors have been doing things like ultra-wide-angle selfie camera, so you can get a lot of people in the shot, or ultra-high-resolution cameras. And Apple seems to have been content with the same 8-megapixel camera they've been using for, I don't know, the last 4 years at least. So,
and it's not even the megapixel count that's lacking behind. There are other things as well. I think like the aperture is smaller, and the what do you call it? The image process? No, the image sensor is not as good. So you've got higher noise on your photos. Yeah, It's just not as good.
So, and as someone who dabbles occasionally in making like short YouTube videos or whatever, even though I know that the rear camera is better on my phone, I tend to use the front-facing one if I'm using the phone because I like the viewfinder.
Oh, you need to be able to see yourself?
Just to frame things. Not necessarily I want to watch myself while I'm recording, but if I'm like unboxing something, I want to be able to see it and make sure it's in frame the whole time.
Right. Yeah, of course you do. Yeah.
So,
but then you can't really talk to the camera because you end up looking at the screen instead of the camera, and it looks like you're looking off camera.
You need to use that new adjusting your gaze thing that the FaceTime uses.
Yeah, I wonder if you can turn that on just for taking a video.
That'd be cool.
So the next report, the next post, is that Apple is going to switch from OLED to micro LED displays in Apple Watch as soon as next year. The article, as it was submitted by My Bogart is Bogart, is missing the R off the end, which a lot of people in the comments found hilarious.
This is really surprising to me. I don't know a lot about micro LED and what its benefits are over the OLED technology we've been using for the last few years. But I had been under the impression until a few weeks ago that micro LED was still in its infancy. But I happened to be at Best Buy the other day and see a micro LED TV for sale, which blew me away. And I came to realize that basically micro LED seems to work in either the context of really big displays or really small ones, and it's like getting the medium-sized ones working that's been the big hurdle. So I think that maybe Apple Watch is a good form factor to start out this transition on.
Okay, so I know next to nothing about it, but from what I've read, it can basically make the screen component a lot smaller and is more battery efficient than the current screen tech.
Yeah. This 65-inch micro LED TV I saw, it wasn't like a million time better picture that blew me away. I was like, oh yeah, it looks like any other giant, 4K or 5K TV.
But it had 1 millimeter bezels and weighed like you could pick it up with a single finger.
Right. Which, I don't know, that could, besides the idea of saving space inside of the watch, which is always important in such a small form factor, the idea of the watch being a little lighter probably makes sense, especially because it's marketed towards athletics so much.
Yeah, you just know that Apple's doing anything they can to make the watch a smaller profile.
Yeah.
I bet they're spending like they did in the lunar lander. It was like $10,000 per pound they spent to shave off.
Oh, really?
I've been watching a lot of Apollo 11 stuff recently.
Hey, it's the right time of year for that.
Yeah.
Just past the 50th anniversary.
Uh-huh.
So I had, this is kind of embarrassing to admit, until recently watching some documentaries on the Apollo moon missions. I had been under the assumption that we had gone to the moon one time.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I thought it was the one time and we never returned, but it was actually like 5 or 6 missions. So.
Uh-huh. Man, I hope no astronauts from the following Apollo missions ever listen to this show. What an insult. I think, was it Apollo 16? They spent like 3 days on the moon.
Was that the one they brought the rover with them?
Yeah,
the
I
little
think they
buggy
might have had a
thing?
rover on the last 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, 16 I think was the last, and they had the buggy. One of the astronauts was walking past the buggy and like knocked off one of the mud flaps as well. Probably not called a mud flap on the moon. And they rigged together a new mud flap using like lunar surface maps and sticky tape. Amazing.
Why was that so important? Just because it's going to kick stuff up at them or something?
Yeah, it's kicking up so much dust that they could hardly see. And of course, with the low gravity, it was just staying in the air.
Right. Huh. So, yeah, I thought all of that was done in one trip with the rover and all of the placing.
Oh, you thought the rover went up on the first trip?
I knew we had a rover, yeah. I just assumed this was all a one-time thing.
It's getting better and better.
Well, I mean, to be honest, this is just something I never put any thought into. I assumed it was just like, we did the math, like, okay, we can do this, and we sent someone to the moon, and they came back. I didn't even realize there was the process of, like, we sent people up to orbit the moon, and then come back, and then we sent people up to, like, try to land, and so there's a whole process to it I was just unaware of.
What did you think Apollo 13 was about? Just like some totally fictional story?
No. I honestly don't know. I don't know what I thought. I just thought Apollo was like just the name of the space programs in general, and like maybe we were trying to do something else, and it wasn't going back to the moon.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned something. I was today years old when I learned. I went to the moon a bunch of times.
All right. Cool. Quickly moving on. BMW is going to charge an $80 annual fee for Apple CarPlay. So this has been kind of threatened and reported on and off for at least 12 months, and I think we've probably even had it on the show before, but it seems to be...
I was so excited when I saw this.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
This was a topic on our second episode ever.
Was it really? Okay, There you go. Did you have to look that up, or did you remember?
I remembered it happened, and that's what prompted me to go look it up. But yeah, it was our second episode. So still with you and me and other David and Christian, and we brought this up because Toyota had just announced they were going to start adding CarPlay to their 2019 cars.
Oh, I just found it in the notes. Nice.
Yeah. So I went back and listened to our discussion on that earlier today to prepare for this topic.
Okay, what did we say?
That this is a way for BMW to nickel and dime their customers who are already paying a premium for vehicles, and that it made no sense because BMW had to pay a one-time MFI certification fee, and there wasn't even like a annual fee or anything that BMW had to pay to license this technology or anything. And that BMW's justification was that people usually lease their cars for a couple years, and by charging $80 a year instead of $300 up front to install CarPlay, they're actually saving their customers money. I think that was the gist of it.
Okay, well, thank you for that summary. That's probably more than I actually had in mind to say today. So,
well, this has some frustrating implications that we didn't bring up the first time. For one, every time you start your car, it checks with BMW servers to make sure you've paid to activate CarPlay.
Oh, really?
So that means if their servers are down or if you're in an area where you don't have service, your CarPlay won't work.
There's no like couple of day grace period, like if you're on a trip.
Which makes no sense because it's 100% driven by your phone. So the fact that it relies on internet connection for something like that to work is crazy frustrating.
There is a 20-year or 240-month offer as well for $300.
Right. That has the same issue though. Even if you pay to unlock it for 20 years, which is basically life of the car, it still checks every time it starts, so it still won't work for you sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And this has an interesting implication that's kind of funny that it ties into our original topic of a year ago with Toyota offering CarPlay, because between then and now, in the last elapsed year and a half, Toyota has relaunched their Supra, which is just a rebadged BMW something or other. I don't know anything about BMWs, but it runs on BMW's infotainment system as well. So at the moment, it's still up in the air whether or not Toyota's going to have to start doing this, at least on their higher end Supra.
All right, they might be forced to just because they're reselling a BMW.
Right.
Is that what you mean?
The problem is that either they have to because they're using BMW's infotainment system, or BMW turns it off for them because it's not a BMW, but then people can take that infotainment firmware and patch it on other BMWs and not have to pay the fee either. So in order to avoid that, BMW may want to avoid making a version of their infotainment system that doesn't have that fee.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The new Supra looks a lot like their 86. What do you call it? Like the Subaru BRZ 86. And Toyota has basically the same car, just under a different name. I think might also have 86 in the model, though.
Huh.
It looks just like that.
So, yeah, I'm only a little bit more than the average person in terms of knowledgeable about cars, so I don't have what to say about this.
Okay.
But I make that mistake sometimes. I get myself in circles that I shouldn't be in because I know just enough about cars to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but as soon as I'm with someone who actually knows what they're talking about, I quickly am embarrassed. So
I'd be right there with you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is just ridiculous, and I feel like this is something that Apple should step in and say something about the fact that another company is trying to charge for their service. That doesn't sit right with me, and I'm surprised that Apple hasn't done anything. But the fact that we were talking about this a year and a half ago and nothing has changed since then makes me think that they're okay with it.
Yeah, I don't think I've read any response at all from anyone at Apple, right, or even rumors that they might be unhappy with it. So they must be fine with it, or they don't have a good enough relationship with BMW to say anything.
Yeah, I don't know if it was on this post specifically, but I have seen over the last week or so in the comments, people like, well, I emailed Tim and Craig and asked them how they feel about this, and I haven't heard back yet. So,
and I don't think they will.
Yeah, but it's crazy that it's always the premium companies that feel the need to do stuff like this. It's like if you go to a really fancy hotel and you're paying 2 or 3 times as much a night as if you went to the Quality Inn down the street or whatever.
And the stuff in the minibar costs service 3 times as much as well.
Yeah, and you don't get a free breakfast or anything else. It's like I could have paid, $50 and got a free breakfast and everything, but I'm paying $300 to be in your nice hotel, and then breakfast is another $30 or something. So, yeah, I got a Ford and CarPlay is free for me, and in a Honda CarPlay would be free or anything else. So,
yeah, I'm waiting for the Volkswagen sales this year to pick up a new car, and that's most probably going to have CarPlay in there for free. So I look forward to that.
You
Actually,
gotta get the.
does an iPad have CarPlay? Can you plug
Uh,
it in?
I don't. I don't know. I've never tried. I
Uh,
feel like it probably wouldn't work though.
No, it doesn't. How frustrating. Gonna have to
Which
think
is
of some
really
way
too
around
bad
that.
because apparently CarPlay, if the car you're plugging into has GPS built in, CarPlay will use that instead of your phones. So you could still have maps and everything, and your iPad could be pulling GPS from your car. So that's really
Okay.
too bad that wouldn't work.
Yeah, that would be good if you had wireless CarPlay, and so you'd be saving a lot of battery then.
Right.
Anyway, I think we've pretty much done that topic, haven't we?
I think so. Twice now.
Yeah. Well, I'm James from EDM.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
I've made great advances in my Twitter usage since our last show, because I was saying how it made me so angry.
Okay.
And I was saying it made me so angry because I've got this like curated list of people that I follow, and they post stuff that I want to see, and yet Twitter is insistent on giving me all this other stuff, like people you follow liked X, and people you follow also follow X, and here's a tweet from them. And it was like I had an epiphany, because I knew I didn't like that stuff, but as I was describing that in the last show is when it really sunk in that it's actually all this peripheral stuff that's the bad part of Twitter. I think I might have even said in the last show, like, well, why don't I just use another app that's not the official Twitter app? And so that's exactly what I'm doing. I just went to the App Store, typed in Twitter. There's one I used in there before. What is it? Let me just find it without killing the recording session. Twitterific. So I downloaded Twitterific. I don't know if it's a paid app or not, because I'd already downloaded it at some point in the past, so it just had the little cloud and the down arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And Twitter is back to what it used to be, which is just like kind of an RSS feed of stuff that I want to see, and it's mostly like Apple or tech news related stuff with a few random bits and pieces in there as well. But like gone is all the politics and the horrible stuff that was the part that made me not like Twitter, and now it's back to being happy. It's still like not like an Instagram for me, but it's something that I don't fear opening. So thanks, me, for working that out.
Listening back to that show the other week made me think to ask, was I contributing to your dislike of Twitter in like such a way that it was like my friends were the ones annoying you?
I don't think so. I didn't always check to see, like, when it gave me some random tweet from someone I didn't know, like, it doesn't always say who exactly else follows this person or who liked this tweet. Could just say, like, blah, blah, and other friends or something like that, so...
Okay.
So, I didn't at any point note that you were part of the problem. So maybe our political views are just aligned. Or you just never... I don't know.
Well, I was starting to think of what's like, I wonder if that was James' subtle way of telling me that he's annoyed about the political stuff that I like on Twitter or whatever.
No, it was... I can definitely think of a few like big tech accounts that I follow that their peripheral stuff was annoying me, and yeah. So you weren't on the list.
That's good.
I might go and double check you now, though.
I think Twitterific was just one of the higher up posts in the last couple weeks as well, because they just recently are transitioning from their pay one time model to a subscription service.
Okay.
For things like push notifications, and I think even having ads removed. And people are frustrated because even people who paid for Twitterific years ago are going to have to start paying for the subscription if they want those features.
And admittedly, I don't really like Twitterific. It's just the one that I grabbed because I'd grabbed it before. I don't think it's a very good app. It's a good app, but it just doesn't really work the way I want it to. So I don't think I would ever imagine paying for it.
Right.
But yeah, so many apps are doing the whole one-time purchase to subscription model thing that it can get frustrating.
It makes sense from the standpoint of a developer, especially if you're a smaller developer and you have to pay for push notification servers and things like that. But from a user standpoint, it just feels like we're being flooded with everything you have to subscribe to now, and it's becoming ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, it really forces you to prioritize what you're willing to pay for or not.
Right, and it's frustrating because they're features that I've had for free for the last 10 years almost, and now they're stuff I have to pay for, and it feels wrong, but I can understand why some people need that.
If the market's angry enough, they look for alternatives, and then alternatives pop up, so
right.
I don't know. We can just hope for that. I might go and check out the other Twitter apps. I don't even know what they are, really. Tweetbot, that's got a name to it.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. Twitter themselves used to have a really nice iPad app.
Yeah.
And when the iPad came out, like, Twitter was one of the launch apps that they showed off, and it had a really nice, like tabbed view or whatever to it, and it's all gone now. They stripped it out.
Yeah, it didn't have, like, multi-column views.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't really mind the current Twitter app. It's bare
just a big
bones.
iPhone app.
Gets the job done, yeah.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than using the website.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think you can turn off all those features. Or the people you follow features. All right. Oh, actually, another huge piece of news that we didn't mention. The current iOS 13 beta has 34 volume levels instead of the 16 that we've had since iOS 1.0.
What?
Yep.
How is that?
You have to click twice as much now.
Interesting. It's not something I've noticed.
Yeah, all right.
I guess I don't really... When I adjust the volume on my phone, I usually do it from Control Center. I don't use the buttons, so...
Oh yeah, me too, actually. Ever since it's such a nice swipe from the top right.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's usually because I either want to silence my volume and turn it all the way off, or I want to have it pretty high, because a phone's kind of hard to hear if it's not turned up quite a bit. So I could either press the button 10 times or just swipe a couple times, and I tend to do that.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'm sure that's not the last we'll hear about this.
The volume?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that... Does that mean there's finer increments between levels? Like, the phone can technically get quieter than before? Or...
I'd be surprised if the minimum volume changed. I think it's just you've got twice the number of intermediate steps between 0 and 100.
Well, I know on the Mac, like, you can volume up and down keys, and that do the little full segments. But if you hold Shift and volume up and down, you can go up and down by partial segments. I think quarter segments.
Oh, really?
You can technically you can make your Mac quieter because you can have like a quarter of a segment instead of a full one. So.
Okay. So in that case, there probably will be a quieter segment, like between 0 and 1. Now we're going to have the half.
Which I think 1 is already impossible for me to hear, so I don't know how that's going to be useful to anyone, but
yeah.
Someone with better hearing than me, a younger person, I guess.
Because you're old 20-something ears.
I'm almost 25 in September.
Wow.
So, no, I felt like an old person after going on vacation with my family and then coming back to the air conditioning issues and staying in a hotel for a night and then being back home for a night or two and then traveling to this developer conference in Kansas City. My back was killing me from not sleeping in my own bed. And I just felt like my father. So I think I just got over that.
I can sleep on anything. Do you know the tip, the trick for being able to sleep anywhere?
What's that?
Just sleep in a really hard bed at home, and then you can sleep anywhere. Like the mattress I've got at home is It's like a futon mattress, so it's not like a standard mattress. I'm not sure what makes up the internals of it, but it's not like it's spongy by any stretch.
Okay.
And because I'm so used to that, I could pretty much sleep anywhere. Like those camping mattresses, which are like blown up a quarter of an inch thick, I could sleep on that on like a piece of concrete, no problems.
Huh. I think my problem is probably that I pamper myself too much at home then. I got one of those, like a pillow top mattress, and I have one of those fancy, like gel and memory foam, like $200 pillows that forms to my head. And so when I'm traveling, everything feels awful.
Yeah, so you've got the opposite problem. I only sleep with a pillow because apparently I snore when I don't. Otherwise, I wouldn't sleep with a pillow at all.
Oh, really? I snore no matter what. So, huh? So I guess I'll just have to try to make myself more uncomfortable when I'm at home.
Yeah. The thing is, it's not that uncomfortable because you get used to it,
right?
And it is not that uncomfortable, really. Anyway, I mean, a good chunk of the world's population sleeps on these sorts of mattresses, and they get by all right.
This is just a new problem for me. Like, I remember sleeping on pool tables in college, or sleeping on like.
That's when you were blackout drunk. That's different.
You're not wrong, but I slept on a Sea-Doo at one point, like laying on the seat of a Sea-Doo.
Is that like a jet ski, or?
Yeah. Sea-Doo's a brand of jet ski, but yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I could do all that just fine. But now it's like sleeping in a hotel bed. It kills me.
How do you sleep on a jet ski?
Same way you sleep on a pool table, drunk.
I've been on iOS 13 basically since our last show. Not at the moment, though. And I couldn't actually FaceTime between iOS 13 and 12 at all. Just completely dead.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you decided to go back to iOS 12?
I did. Well, I had my hand forced a little bit. Well, part of the reason I upgraded to iOS 13 is because I have the horrible touch disease type thing on my iPad where just randomly it stops registering touches. So
right.
Some of the articles said, it was only introduced in 12.2.x or whatever, so it's probably a software thing. So I thought, if Apple's aware of it, then maybe, and it is a software thing, if it is a software thing, then maybe they fixed it in iOS 13. So I've got nothing to lose at this point. I'll go to iOS 13. If anything, it was worse. And so I booked a Genius Bar appointment, and so I had to put it back to iOS 12, of course, because they're just going to laugh me out of the Apple Store if I walk in with an iOS 13 device and a problem.
Have you already had that appointment?
Well, so the thing is that I can't replicate it, like, on demand. So if I took it in without video proof of it happening, I'll probably also get laughed out of the store. Maybe not quite as loudly as if I went in with iOS 13. So I had some time on Saturday. I sat down, I restored it to iOS 13. I got a video camera pointed at my iPad, and I used it for like an hour and a half up until the point that I had to leave for the appointment, and it did not malfunction once, of course. So at that point, I cancelled the appointment, and really, I shouldn't have left it to like the morning of the appointment, I guess. But yeah, and since then it's been horrible. So I've yet to capture it on video, which is what I need to be able to book it in to go in and get it replaced.
It's camera shy.
Yeah, maybe that. No, it's performing for the camera. It's the opposite.
Right. That makes sense.
It's I don't know the word for the opposite of camera shy.
The bug is camera shy.
Okay, now I follow.
I don't think it's a bug though. It sounds like it's definitely a hardware issue.
Oh yeah, no, I'm 99% sure it's a hardware issue.
That's scary. I hope mine doesn't go out.
You've got Apple Care though, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I have Apple Care.
So what's there to worry about?
Well, it's a 4-hour round trip for me to go to the nearest Apple store.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, I do like excuses to go to the Apple store, but it's a bit much.
So, are you in a nice, well-cooled home now since our last chat?
Yeah. My house is back to normal. It got repaired fairly quickly the day after we recorded the show, and I got the news from the repair person that when the air conditioning stopped working, I just turned it off and left it until they came to fix it. But apparently, had I turned it back on, it would have worked again and cooled the house.
Even
Yeah.
So he's saying that it just needed to be switched off then on again. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, there is a faulty component that causes.
But it would have worked despite it.
Right. It caused the blower motor in the furnace to freeze up from the cold air from the air conditioning unit, and by turning it off, it allowed the motor to thaw out again. So I could have turned it back on and used it to like intermittently cool the house, and it would just freeze every once in a while.
Okay.
So it could have been more comfortable for that 4 or 5 days that we didn't have any air conditioning. But ever since then, so the repair person came and fixed it and said, well, this is just a really old air conditioning unit. It needs to be replaced. It's on its last leg. And so my landlord's been like sending every air conditioning company within like 100-mile radius to come give him an estimate. So
yeah, of course.
People coming and going a lot.
You don't need 3 quotes to make sure you've got the cheapest. You need at least 15.
That's right. So, yeah, I've had a lot of people coming and going to my house recently.
Nice. Well, I guess that's one of the reasons people buy homes sometimes is to have a bit more privacy. You don't have rental inspections, and although if something broke down, you're still gonna have tradespeople in and out, aren't you?
What is a rental inspection? That's not something I've heard of.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if you're renting a house, then every quarter the landlord's entitled to come in and just make sure you haven't trashed the place.
That's not really ever been a thing for me. I'm sure I've had landlords like put in the lease before, like we're entitled to enter if we give you 24 hours notice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a quarterly thing. But most of the time, I've had a landlord that like hands me the lease, and then I only ever hear from them if there's a problem, and then I see them again at the end of the lease, and basically never in between.
That sounds nice. The place I'm in currently it's not through a rental agency, which the vast majority of them are, and this is the first place I've ever been in that doesn't seem to have rental inspections. I mean, I've only been here since February this year, but so far I haven't heard from them, besides when there's been a few problems. But yeah.
Is a rental inspection supposed to be like a surprise thing where they show up, or do you get a...
No, there's pretty strict laws concerning it. You have to give 7 days notice and the time that you're visiting, that sort of thing. But they can be a hassle because at the last place, they forever were picking us up on, you've got weeds in the garden, you haven't swept the driveway, all that sort of nonsense.
Oh, really? I've never had a landlord complain about the state of the house while I lived in it. Like, as long as I returned it to them as nice or nicer than it was when I moved in, they were fine, and they didn't really care what happened in between. Are you still phoneless at the moment?
Yes, I'm phoneless. 100% phone free.
How's that been working out?
Pretty well. I only got stuck. I only got caught out once, and it turned out there would have been a workaround that would have worked for me. This is after I restored my iPad down to iOS 12, and then I went to get petrol, and there was no money in the bank account, so I opened up the bank app to just put $50 in there, or whatever. And because I'd restored it, the banking app wanted to like set up a new profile, blah blah blah, and part of that setup process was getting a 2-factor code, and because I had no phone on me, I couldn't get a 2-factor code to finish setting my profile. So I thought, damn it, I'm gonna have to drive home and just get petrol another time. But I realized after that I could have just gone to the bank's website to log in, because it doesn't require 2-factor to log in there.
All right.
So yeah, I thought I was stuck without a phone. I wasn't. I haven't had any other problems. I've been on a 3-day business trip to the other side of the country with just my iPad, and
nice.
Besides iOS 13 problems, which are um, which are numerous. The trip was also a success. Just running phone-free iPad lifestyle hashtag.
Is it much more inconvenient to carry an iPad with you everywhere?
It occasionally it is, yeah. The main times I noticed it was like you're walking through the airport and you need to call an Uber. You can't use the iPad one-handed while you're trailing along a bag behind you with the other hand.
All right.
So you kind of have to stop. And I mean, I did carry the iPad in my hand for most of the time, which I didn't find that bothersome really. Like it's not a heavy piece of equipment, and it was handy just to have it out instead of tucked away in a bag. This is around the airports I'm talking. But yeah, you did have to stop and set the bag up and then get both hands on the iPad to do things like call an Uber or check what gate you're at next and that sort of nonsense. But day to day, I do have just like a sling if I'm going somewhere. I'm doing a lot of walking, so I just put the iPad in the sling, and like I'm normally carrying a camera or something as well, so it's not inconvenient. Yeah. I would normally have it with me anyway. If I'm walking with the kid, well, I've got a pram sometimes, so it just goes in the pram.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Strangely.
Okay. And you really never need to worry about battery life on an iPad. Actually,
that is something I wanted to mention because, yeah, left home, 5-hour flight, 2 long trips in taxis, work all day, and then get home and it's at like 50%. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's the future.
Now I know how an iPhone XR user feels.
Now imagine if you could just take your iPad and fold it, and then that would be your phone and tablet and computer.
Yeah, wouldn't that be special? Now I wonder, would I want the current size iPad folded in half, or would I want it to be like double the size? The current one was the half size.
Oh, really? I wonder what the biggest folded out size you could get would be that you could still fold and comfortably fit in your pocket.
Right. Well, not too much bigger than the Max.
Right, as the pocket size.
Right.
And that would unfold to be probably slightly bigger than an iPad mini.
Mm-hmm.
So
that sounds like a good form factor. Well, we've got to see how the Galaxy Fold fares because the re-release, well, that's in quotes because it never actually was released the first time, was it? Is in September.
Mm-hmm.
Strategically, might I say, in September. Yeah, right around the time we might see new iPhones.
It seems like very deliberate timing on their part.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't have I'm not holding my breath. And it was only going to be initially launched on 2 major carriers in the U.S., and one of them has allegedly dropped the phone, so now it's only going to be launched on T-Mobile.
Right. Yeah, okay. So, okay. And it's still a $2,000 phone, so I wonder how many would ever be seen in the wild.
Yeah, well, it's not only a $2,000 phone now. Now it's a $2,000 phone that has a history of breaking, so...
But didn't you hear they tucked the screen protector under the bezels and they put caps on the hinges so that dirt can't ingress?
Man, at what point, like if these were to go to reviewers in another, I wonder if reviewers are going to get it again, first of all. I wonder if they'll just get the production run with everyone else. But if we hear in another couple of days after the full launch that they're all breaking again, that's pretty much like the death nail for foldable phones for at least a year or two before anyone's going to be ready to trust anything else that comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Consumer trust in foldable phones will be zero. There's going to be no expectation that something really market ready is ever going to come this year at least.
Right. I'm really disappointed that my government's cut all ties with Huawei because their Mate X foldable phone was really exciting to me, and I'll never really get to see how that works now.
That was the one that did like the opposite fold, wasn't it?
Right, and that makes more sense to me. Every review I've seen online says that doesn't make sense and the folding inward is better, and I get that it protects the screen more, but in every other way, it looks nicer, it seems to work better. I don't know why people aren't more excited about that form factor.
Yeah, right, instead of having this poxy like 3.5-inch mini screen most of the time, you have like the full screen usable. But seeing how fragile the screens are, maybe it's not such a good idea.
Yeah, they'd have to come up with a way to like make a plastic screen cover that's foldable but also very resistant to scratches, and I don't think we have anything like that right now.
How about an iPod sock for your Huawei?
That might be the solution. Some kind of sleeve that you put your phone in, some kind of microfiber case or whatever.
Yep. Maybe we should put this idea to the company.
There you go. Yeah, we can go work for Huawei now that they can't even use Android or anything.
I haven't heard much about that recently.
I'm very disappointed. It makes sense because I've gone years hearing sketchy things about Huawei and their connection to the Chinese government and everything else. But at the same time, they've been really doing some interesting things, and I was excited to see what they come up with.
Well, you might have to move to China or somewhere to truly experience Huawei as a company.